Welcome to Start Before You're Ready, the podcast that proves that you don't need to wait for the perfect moment to begin your journey towards better health and happiness. I'm your host, Kelly Young. Remember, the first step is often the hardest, but it's always worth taking. Hey guys, it's Kelly, and I'm back with another episode of Start Before You're Ready. I am really excited to talk to you today. I feel like I've had a lot of things that I wanted to share, and this is just going to be a great opportunity for me to tell you about how 2025 is going, and maybe you're going to be able to relate to some of these things. Hopefully, I'll also be able to give you some advice on how I've dealt with some of the things that I've been struggling with. Of course, we're going to talk a little bit of fitness and nutrition, but first of all, before I do any of that, I would like to say a heartfelt thank you to anybody who has taken the time to listen to this podcast. This venture of starting a podcast is something that I believe I'm supposed to be doing. And if you've listened to me enough, you know that a lot of what I do is based on the feelings I get when I do something. And right away, the first time I recorded, I felt a feeling of, yes, Kelly, this is what you're supposed to be doing. But I haven't put in the reps yet. I'm not great at it. I make a lot of mistakes. I get overly excited and I make some sounds that I didn't even know I made. There's a lot of things happening, but it's okay. It's okay because the name of this podcast is called Start Before You're Ready. And one of the points that I want to make to my audience is that it doesn't have to be perfect. Every time you do something, you're going to get better at it. We have produced 20 episodes in a very short amount of time. And I do feel like we're getting better at it. And I do feel like I'm gaining confidence. And I do feel like I'm starting to see a little bit more of a direction that we're supposed to be going. And I've gotten great feedback. I've gotten people that are saying that they're sharing the podcast with friends and family members. And I see the numbers. We've had over 2,000 downloads. I think that is incredible. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Thank you for sharing your feedback. It is incredibly helpful. It really is. I will say that whenever you do something like this, that you're just kind of putting something out there, you don't know if people like it or not until you just get that. And I'm not saying I've gotten a ton of feedback, but honestly, like every week, maybe there's like one or two people that send me a text or say something in class and say, hey, Kelly, I really liked that, or I really enjoyed hearing from this person. And that is really, really helpful for me. It's actually been helpful for me as an individual in giving feedback to other people. Because I'm like, wow, it really makes a difference if somebody likes something, if they tell you. So I'm trying to do a better job of that now. And just in general, the direction that I'd like to see the podcast go a little bit more, that I don't know that I'm nailing yet, is talking about people's struggles. Because I feel like that is something we can really relate to. And sometimes when you see other people, you think that like things just come easy to them and they don't have those hard days and it's just natural. But I think it's really helpful to know that everybody has hard days. And I like to consider myself a really optimistic person. And it's something that's really served me not only in my own life, but in being a leader in my community. But I'm here to tell you guys that I have not been very optimistic lately. I have been in a funk, and I think I was fighting it. A lot has to do with the things that are going on in the world. I'm very emotional and sensitive, and it's hard for me to see hard things happen to other people. I think everyone will agree with that. I'm not talking politics at all, I promise. But in addition to people losing their jobs, we had a tragic plane crash in our community that has affected people that are very close to people that I'm very close to. We've had some health scares. We've had parents and members. And we've just had a lot of things. I struggle when there's things that are going on with people that I care about that I don't feel like I can do much for. But the words that I've had to say to myself a lot, especially in the last month, is to control the controllables and to really focus on the things that I know that I can do that can not only help me, because right now I needed to spend a little time helping myself so that I can help other people. And I feel like this week in particular, I'm coming out of this rut a little bit. A lot has happened in 2025. We've been very busy at Kelly's Bootcamp and Energy. We run a winter challenge. I know a couple weeks ago I had some of my challenge leaders on and we talked about all the great things that we were doing. And we talked about the changes that people were making and how friendships were being developed and connection. And it's just this wonderful experience. But it's also a lot of work. And I sometimes forget that kind of last week of, the contest ending. I like to host everybody at my house. And it's something I love. And it's something that makes me really happy and brings me great joy. But sometimes I get in over my head and I try to do too much. And I become physically exhausted, and that sometimes makes you emotional. So I had a lot of those things. Going on. I was pretty exhausted just wrapping up the contest and hosting this event that went amazing, that I had an amazing time with. I think it's important to know that. It's like, just because I was tired and feeling overwhelmed didn't mean I didn't enjoy it. But I did kind of think to myself, okay, Kelly, for future, you might need to rethink how we do all this. You might need to get a little bit more help or just be a little bit more strategic with your time and energy. I always think I am. That's the worst part. This year, I felt like I had really done a great job of being ahead of myself and being prepared and being organized and doing a lot of things in advance. It just takes one thing, as you guys know, one little mishap during the week or something to throw you off, and that plan gets a little bit messed up. But the winter challenge party was amazing, and the challenge itself was amazing. And I did talk about the team portion of the challenge in the podcast where we had Min and Meg and Lindsay on, which was so fun having them on. And I want to have them on again because I feel like we just scratched the surface of all the amazing things that happened during the winter challenge. But it didn't really talk about the individual challenge. And the individual challenge was actually almost as big as the team challenge, which has never, ever happened before. And again, it might have to do with there being a lot going on and people felt like maybe they wanted to commit to their own health and they wanted to make the changes that they know they can make when they put the focus in and the intention in, but they didn't want to have the extra layer of accountability to a team. Interestingly enough, my individual competitors competed with the teams. They did just as well as far as the metrics that they were being measured by, which the winter challenge, I always like to say it's not a weight loss competition because it's really not a weight loss competition. It's really a body especially for the individual because there's no team component. It's a body composition competition, but it really, the people that do the individual, I encourage them to set specific goals for themselves and work specifically towards those goals. I don't think people really think about winning the individual contest as much as they might the team. I think if they have good results and they feel great when they finish, they win. But I want to tell you a little bit about how we ran the individual contest this year, because I really liked it and I see it as potentially a future program. And maybe this is something that you could do on your own. So each week we had a different challenge. And that's not to say they didn't have a plan for the entire 6-week challenge, but the idea was we were going to focus on one thing specifically. And I made it very clear to all the individuals that were participating in the individual challenge, hey, if this week's challenge doesn't speak to you, don't do it. Make a decision. And this is important. Either you're in or you're out, right? You're either going to do it and you're going to commit to it or you're going to pass. And either one is fine. I think when we commit to it and then don't do it, I think that's what feels yucky. I think that's where the negative energy comes from. So weekly challenges were basically, if it speaks to you, do it. And if it doesn't, don't. Let me know what else you're doing this week. So that's kind of how it ran. And the first one was tracking. And I actually did the challenge along with them. So that was really good for me. I have not tracked like that. So if you don't know what tracking is, that's basically recording what you eat. And I know a lot of people have negative feelings about tracking and they don't want to track or they don't think tracking is good. But I'm here to tell you that if you want to make body composition changes and you're not 100% sure of what you're eating, tracking is the answer. You need to track at least for enough time to get a good gauge of what you're eating. And if you're getting enough protein, if you're getting enough fiber, if you're eating too much, if you're not eating enough, your timing of your eating. So I'm just going to use myself as an example, my personal experience with tracking. So here's what I find when I track. Every time I track my food and I eat what I think I always eat and I record it, I'm hungry at the end of the day. So what does that mean? I usually eat more than I think I do. So I'm usually consuming more calories than I think I do. I would tell you I eat around 2,000 calories a day. I know for some people they might think that's a lot, but I do have a lot of muscle. And one of the advantages of having a lot of muscle is your skeletal muscle, your basal metabolic rate is higher. That's why we're trying to help all of our participants get more muscle. So basically, more muscle means you get to eat more. That's a really simple way of saying it. And keep in mind, guys, I dummy everything down because this makes sense to people. If you have more muscle, if you weigh 150 pounds and your muscle is higher than another individual that weighs 150 pounds, you get to eat more than that other 150 pound person. Okay, so yes, the amount of food that you get to eat does have to do with how much you weigh. If you're a bigger person, you can maintain your weight with more food. If you're a smaller person, you need less food to maintain your weight. However, the muscle is what makes the difference. So that's why instead of just trying to drop weight, we work really hard on maintaining or increasing our muscle, even if we are trying to move the scale. So I was hungry. So that told me, okay, I'm eating a little bit more than I thought I was eating. My fiber was through the roof, which was really interesting because I feel like in the past, that is something that I've struggled with. I've always said getting 35 grams of fiber a day, which I probably could get away with 25, but I try to aim towards 35 is really hard and I don't always nail it. I will say that tracking taught me that I am actually pretty good about it. And there's a couple of reasons why. One is I have the fiber bomb, and the fiber bomb that I have pretty much daily, or I was during the challenge. I'll be honest, I've kind of gotten off track with it, but is a chia pudding. So it's a couple tablespoons of chia seeds. It's 3/4 of a cup of berries, like raspberries and blackberries. And you end up getting like 11 grams of fiber just in that. And then between all the vegetables and some of the other foods, it just added up quick. So I did actually nail the fiber. I was really, really happy with that. I learned during the tracking that if I don't do and my theory on supplements, if I haven't already talked about this, if you haven't heard me already talk about this, is you don't want it to be a large portion of your food. But if you need a supplement to get to your protein goal or it's just convenient, sure, have a supplement. I say one. That's something that I've talked to my doctor about, and that's something I feel comfortable with for myself. You could say more, but that just feels right for me. I like to eat. I love food. So one supplement is perfect. So what I found is if I don't have a supplement, which for me is usually a scoop of whey protein powder, then I do struggle to hit 150 grams of protein a day, which is what I like to get, 150 grams of protein a day. I say I have one supplement, but I also do egg whites. So in addition to regular eggs, I have egg whites, and I almost think of them as a supplement because I'm eating them solely for the purpose of getting more protein. I like them. I like the way they taste when I make my egg white scramble, but I do have egg whites as well. So that's one thing that I recognize that was helpful for me with tracking. I don't eat enough meat and fish and broccoli and all the foods that add up to get to enough protein, because everything adds up, guys. It's funny. You think like, I tell people to think about the bang for their bucks. Like, what are your big sources of protein, which would be like your chicken, your fish, your beef, your cottage cheese, some of your dairy. Those are going to be like your big bang for your buck. But then the other stuff adds up. Your nuts and your seeds and your quinoa. Some of the other foods will add up and help you get to your protein goal. But I did find personally that if I didn't have a supplement, I struggled to get to my protein goal. So I learned that I need to do that. And the good news is for me, I like a shake. I don't just shake protein powder with water. I like to make an actual shake that tastes delicious with real food in it. I put berries in it and I put a scoop away, a little bit of vanilla extract. It tastes delicious. Sometimes I put some cacao nibs or sliced almonds on top. So I enjoy that. So it's not something I'm choking down. I do think that that's important, that you find foods that you like. Don't have something just because, I've got to get this so I get my protein. Try to find foods like that you actually enjoy. So tracking is hard. That's the other thing I'll tell you that I learned. Being on a team and being accountable really helped me. I can tell you with sincere honesty that I would not have finished a lot of days if I was administering the program. So I would have to go into the group and say, share your screenshot of your tracking for the day. And then everyone would start doing it. And I'm like, I got to finish. So it's really great to have accountability. Even if you just want to track for 3 days just to see okay, where am I with my protein? Where am I with my fiber? How are my macros? One thing that I notice when I track too is that my fat is really high. And it's because of the nuts and the seeds and the olive oil and salmon and avocado and cheese. And a lot of those foods are great foods. So I don't worry as much about it, but I do like to pay attention to it to make sure that it's not higher than everything else. So if you haven't tracked in a while, or you're feeling like you're not sure how you're doing with your nutrition, honestly, tracking for a few days can be really beneficial. I like to use tracking as kind of a reel it in. So if I'm feeling off, if I'm feeling like, I just had indulgent weekend, I will Monday say, okay, I'm going to track for a few days just to get back on track. Tracking is the perfect word, to track for a few days to get back on track. So that was our first challenge with the individual. And then we went on, we didn't do a sleep challenge. We did a steps challenge. That was also very eye-opening for me. I do not track my steps on a regular basis. So I had to look at my Apple Watch and make sure I was wearing it, which that's hard to do if you don't already do that. But that one, I think really helped a lot of the people in the individual, because a lot of them do have desk jobs, and it really encouraged them to get outside and just go for a walk. The weather was rough, so a lot of people were using their walking pads. But I will say this, if you have no idea and you don't have an Apple Watch, you can use your phone, guys. You can attach your phone to you. You have to carry it with you everywhere you go, but it will also track your steps, and it is helpful. And a lot of the people in the challenge said, Kelly, I can't get 10,000. I'm going to go for 6,000 or 8,000. It's just that they knew that would be too far off. Other people in the challenge got 25,000 and they really committed to it. So tracking your steps is a great way to measure how much movement you're getting throughout the day. Can be fun to do competitions if that speaks to you, but really just make sure that you're getting that daily movement. It's harder than I thought. I used to, just as a younger mom with a family that I was constantly running after and caring for and doing stuff around the house, I used to just get a ton of steps without even trying. I never had to think about steps. In fact, I didn't understand why anyone had to think about steps. But now my life is more sedentary. I do a lot more desk work than I'd ever done before. So I like to kind of plan out my days based on what I know my classes are going to be. Like on Wednesdays, I teach strength, so I'm not getting a lot of steps. It's not a lot of movement. So that's the day I try to do work around the house. or go to Costco or do things that I know I'm going to get more steps. So it's just kind of thinking about things a little bit more strategically. The other challenge that we did was water. And I am here to tell you guys, listen up, listen up. The water challenge was the game changer. The water challenge was the game changer. I did not see any difference in anything from the tracking, but once we did that water challenge, I could see a difference in my skin. I could see a difference. I moved the scale a little bit, which I always weigh the same. I'm like Groundhog's Day. I literally weigh the same all the time. I don't usually move the scale, but I saw the scale move and I got really excited. But I want to be totally honest with you about the water challenge. It started off and I was like, this is so easy. How do people not do this? Because I had a full bottle of water in the morning before I even taught my class. And that got me to 32 or whatever it was. And I was like, it's so easy to get a gallon of water. Well, then Thursday came and I had to do my InBody for our DW program, which is our monthly accountability program. And it threw me off because I couldn't drink all that water because I was about to get on the InBody. So ever since then, I've been off my water game. So it just takes one little thing to get you off your game. But if you're looking for something, if you're looking for like a little boost or just to do something that's going to help you feel better and maybe move the scale a little bit, I'm telling you guys, do the water challenge. And it doesn't have to be a gallon of water, okay? It just needs more water than you usually drink. A general rule of thumb for how much water you should drink is half of your body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 155 pounds, 75 ounces of water is great. If you're doing a lot of exercise and a lot of sweating and you drink coffee and you consume protein, a lot of protein, which you should be having a high protein diet, then you probably need a little bit more than that. But look at what you're doing right now and up it. That's what I suggest. But the key to the water challenge, I think we all learned, all of us in the individual challenge, is to front load your day. Get your water in. I had 100, that was my goal, is 100 ounces by lunch, by the end of lunch. So 100 ounces by the end of lunch, because then I could trickle in the rest. That was not a problem. But front loading your day really, really helps with the water challenge. And I talked about this a little bit, but another challenge that we did was specifically, so it wasn't just a tracking challenge, we did a fiber challenge. And everybody said that was hard. Everyone's like, this is really hard. They had to become much more intentional on the foods that they were choosing. I had some really, I call them like brown nosers, make some charts, and they were doing all kinds of stuff to get their fiber in. And they did a great job with it. Some of my go-to foods for fiber are avocados, berries, apples, chia seeds, pistachios, any vegetable, and broccoli is a great one. I feel like if you chop up, it's easy to eat 2 cups of broccoli. It seems like it's a lot, like, 2 cups of broccoli. It's easy to eat 2 cups of broccoli. Cauliflower, beans are a great source. Lentils are a great source. I'm not a huge bean eater, but what I like to do is put like a couple tablespoons of them on my salad. That's kind of perfect for me. But there's lots of real foods. Now, here's what I don't really encourage you to do. And some of our individual participants did it. I didn't say anything. It's actually going to bring me to a next topic. But they would find like a wrap or, something that like had a lot of processed fiber in it, or, I don't even know if the word synthetic's the right word, but basically it's not necessarily real food fiber. So I try to avoid those foods. Now, if you're looking at like your bread or something like that, and it's coming from the whole wheat, of course that counts. But if you're looking at just like some of these added foods that they put in just to give it more fiber, fiber's kind of a hot term right now. You could get to fiber really quickly. And I think I had I know what I was eating that week. I know exactly what I was eating that week. I let myself I don't eat perfect, by the way. I'm not like a total clean eater, like somebody that doesn't eat any processed food. So sometimes you just want like a crunch, right? Like you just want something. And it's like, I have various things that I eat, but this one I'll never buy again. It didn't do well with my stomach, but it was like these like thin protein pretzels at Costco. And they had fiber in them. So I wouldn't have a lot of them because they weren't good for my stomach, but maybe I'd have like 5 or 7 and they would pop up the fiber because it was like something in them that would pop up the fiber. But while I'm on this is something that I actually wanted to talk to you guys about that I feel pretty strongly about. And it's interesting. It goes back several years. It was actually for a winter challenge party, I think, and I'd made fish tacos. And I love fish tacos. It's like one of my very favorite foods. And I make this amazing avocado cream sauce and cabbage slaw, and it's just fresh and yummy and it's delicious. Well, I use tilapia for my fish tacos. Someone asked me what kind of fish, and I was like, oh, I'll do like a little video. And I showed about the tilapia at Costco, and like a guy that I went to high school with like sent me a DM and was like, Kelly, I can't believe you eat tilapia. It's the worst of the worst and the pests and all the things. And I was like, oh, geez, I was like, honestly, like, that's what I hate. That's what I hate. And I hope I don't sound like I'm contradicting myself because I just made the comment about the tortilla shells not being real fiber. I think that we just have to give ourselves some grace when it comes to our food. And we can be perfect if we want. If we want to make that our full-time job, to have every single thing that goes into our body be perfect and clean and properly sourced and all the things, that is amazing. I give you kudos, but I'm not there. I'm ish. I've talked about this before. It works really well for me. I need to feel good about the food that I'm eating, and it doesn't have to be perfect. But when he said that to me, I don't think I've bought it since. And it's like not something I have all the time too. I think that's where I personally draw the line. It's just like something I'm having once in a while, like just to kind of mix things up, throw it in my cart, whatever. Or is this part of my daily routine that I'm feeding my family or eating on the regular? Because I think that makes a little bit of a difference. But I do think it's important that we don't get too stressed out. I think it's important to pay attention, but don't get to the point where it just feels yucky and you start feeling bad about foods that you eat and it causes anxiety. Just try to find your line. Everybody's line might be different, right? Like I used to say I was like 90% real, whole, clean food. Now I've moved more to 80% and I feel really good about that. I'm like, okay, I feel, and also I look at how I feel and I look at the things that are important to me that I'm measuring. Inflammation. That's really important to me. I can get very inflamed. My joints can get very stiff and my body can be very tight. So if I eat something that causes my body to be inflamed, it's an automatic no. It's like, okay, I'm not eating that. That's terrible. Soy sauce would be a good example. I think gluten. I don't think I'm supposed to really be eating a lot of gluten. I definitely notice that if I kind of let loose a little bit and eat some foods that I don't usually eat, I'm really inflamed. Beer is another one. There's something in beer that inflames me, so I can't really drink beer. So paying attention to how your body responds to certain foods is the key, in my opinion. That's the key versus getting all worked up about all these things. Decide what's important to you. I have a rule, and again, I'm comfortable with this. If Costco sells an organic version of it, I buy it because that's easy for me and it fits into my lifestyle. But if it's something that I like to buy at Costco and it's not organic, I can't think of an example. Maybe it's peppers. I buy it. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. Everything's not organic. And I'm okay with that. And again, this is not my advice. I'm just telling you what I do and how I've kind of found comfort with it. If you have a place that you shop, that you trust, that you feel like they're doing a good job of sourcing their food, I think that's really helpful. Obviously, you can put a lot of effort into getting your food as local as possible. I think that's amazing. I definitely try to do that as well during in season. I think that's great, but just not to overwhelm yourself, I guess is what I'm saying. Don't overwhelm yourself because you know what I see happening, and maybe this is why I have this attitude about it. people just stop doing it. They're like, I can't do this. This is too hard. And they stop doing it. And then they go back to eating really bad choices. So finding kind of that I can keep doing this is better than like being perfect for a short amount of time. Um, so I talked a little bit earlier about struggling, and I know that a lot of people get in this place where they get in a little bit of a funk. We call it in my house. We call it a funk. Like I'm in a funk. I don't know. I don't feel like myself. I'm just, my energy's not high. I don't feel like doing things. I don't feel as motivated. I'm just in a funk. And I was really hard on myself. Let's see, the contest ended, we had our party the 15th, so it ended that week. And right after it ended, so that was a couple weeks ago, I was like, okay, Kelly, you've really neglected these things. You need to get back on track. This is more things about my business, things that I needed to be doing that I wasn't doing. And I just wasn't doing anything quickly. I would do like a little bit every day, but I was before then, I would say I was laser focused and I was really dialed in and I was doing all the things that I was supposed to be doing. But then I just kind of just lost that. And I was really hard on myself about it. Just not that positive self-talk that I encourage everybody to have. I was definitely being like, I was saying things that were perpetuating what I was doing. I'm like, you can't focus. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, you just need to focus on finishing this one thing or being more productive. I was really hard on myself because I was not productive. And I think it's sometimes, and then I was like, okay, you don't have to be so productive. And I gave myself a little bit of slack. And I was like, all right, just get this done. Just get, here's the things that you need to get done. And that was helpful. And then this week, I actually told myself that my priority was to do something that I loved. And I think I needed that. So this week, I told myself that I needed to come up with 20 new, I won't say exercises, but ideas for programming in a class. It might be like combining two moves. It might be just the way I run a circuit, but I needed to just put energy and effort into going back through all my old notes, watching my old videos. I like to record some of my classes, and sometimes I forget, like, oh, I forgot I did that. And you doing that, looking at other people that I admire in the fitness industry, some of their programming, and just making a list. That was so helpful for me. So if you're in a mode of feeling less productive and you're just like in a little rut, and let me be very clear, guys, I know that a lot of you have jobs that don't offer this kind of flexibility where you have to do certain things. And trust me, I have things that I have to do as well. But with the kind of the discretionary time, that was one thing that I wanted to put my time and effort and energy into and not feel bad about it. Here's something interesting. Normally, if I kind of went down the rabbit hole of doing that, spending time looking at old workouts or doing, I would be like, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing right now. But I told myself that that's what I was supposed to be doing. That was my goal for the week. And it really, really helped me. Another thing that I did that really helped me was I shared with my class that I was struggling. A couple of my classes after class, I just said, acknowledging that there's a lot going on for a lot of people in our community right now. And it's okay to sometimes not be okay, right? Especially someone like in my industry, it's like, we're here to give energy and we're here to be positive and we're be to the hoorah and I control the controllables and I have all these sayings that I truly, truly believe, but sometimes I struggle to do them too. So just saying that to my class really helped me. Saying it to a friend, saying it to a family member, saying it to anybody, that can really, really help. And you know what I think? I think it helps them too. I think when you say, hey, I'm really struggling with this, first of all, they want to help you, right? They want to help solve your problem. So they're kind of thinking in a different way. And second of all, they can relate because that has happened to them too. So it just increases your connection. Sometimes being vulnerable is the best way to feel more connected to people. I do have a fun story from Tuesday night. I can share now everything about this story because it's public knowledge, but I just said to my class after the workout, I was like, I think what I need to do and what I encourage you guys to do is just start looking for the good. Like in every situation, what's the silver lining? What's the positive? To draw out the best part of every situation, or the best people, or the things that lift you up. And I finished that class. It was a 6:30 Tuesday night class. I finished that class. I got in my car. I drove home, and I checked my phone from the car before I went into the house. I had a message from one of my boot campers that recently had a baby with 20 pictures of her baby. So I was like, literally felt like I was putting out to the world, like, I need some good news. Like, I just need some good news. I just need some good. So it was like, she's doing great. I saw her other kids with the baby. I've been worried about her. I've been thinking about her. I knew she had her baby, but since she had the baby, I hadn't heard. And then I got into her social media, and she hadn't said anything about it yet. And I was like a little bit nervous. And I texted her before my noon class. So I texted her way earlier in the day, but for whatever reason, she decided to write me back at, I think it was 7:45. And then another message came in. One of our boot campers had a heart attack this week. I guess it was last week. And of course, I was very concerned about him and his family and just all the stress that they were dealing with. And there was a picture of him. It was a group text, but it was a picture of him home in his new chair. He's a really funny guy. He's a great guy. And he was just like smiling and being silly. And it just made me so happy to see that he was back home, the stress of being at a hospital and all that the family had been through. It was just like, okay. And that was like 7:46. I mean, 1 minute later. And then I literally was about to go into the house. I'm like, okay, put your phone down. Poop, another message comes up. Kelly, I got the job. One of my long-term students had told me that she had used some of the principles in Start Before You're Ready to put herself out there for a promotion at her school, and she got the job. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say, but I'm pretty sure that I can at least share that she got a promotion to be a principal. So she sent me this fun text that was like, and then I have another funny story about that. Okay, so this particular person actually got my daughter a job. So I'm not sharing too much because I want to protect my kids, but I went through a little bit of a hard season with my daughter, and she was coming to classes, which was great. I loved that she was coming to my classes at night, and she's a great little exerciser, and it's just fun to have her in class. She has great energy, and it was just making me really happy to have her in class. Well, she saw this student one night, and then the student knew that she had a gymnastics background, and she told her that there was a local gymnastics studio hiring for coaches or for assistant coaches. And Lindsay was very interested. Like, she took it very seriously and drafted an email and went for an interview and has been working there and absolutely loves it. So today, Lindsay came home from school, and I just told her, I said, hey, Linz, I wanted to tell you the person that recommended you for that job got a raise, or got a promotion, got a new job. Raise isn't the right word. Sorry. She got a promotion, and Lindsay's like, that's karma. So it was just a really positive thing. So my words of wisdom that I would like to leave you with is just to look for those positive things. They're out there. If you're in a funk, if you're struggling, it is so easy to wander down a kind of negative road. And you need to be deliberate and getting out of it. It doesn't just happen, guys. You need to change the voice inside your head. You need to decide all of the things that you can control. And truthfully, the only thing that you really control is you, right? That's the only thing. So that's where health and fitness and being more intentional about your sleep and about your habits, that's where that can really be helpful. And I'm hoping that this podcast is a source for you that serves as inspiration to dial into those habits, whatever that means to you right now, right? Wherever you're at, just think of one thing you can do. As I talked about earlier, that individual contest, the way that we did it this year was really valuable. Focusing on one thing every week, not being like, okay, I'm going to get my sleep and check this box and do all these things. It was like, okay, this week we're focusing on fiber. That doesn't mean we're not sleeping and getting water and getting protein and doing our workouts, but as long as we nail the fiber, we've had a successful week, if that makes sense. And it could be anything. It doesn't have to be fiber. That's for sure. So the last thing that I want to say is I also had an incredible weekend. I actually went up to New York and saw my family and my siblings. My younger siblings both have babies, like babies. We're talking like 2 and 3 that are less than a year. And I was there for 36 hours, but spending time with them just reminded me of how much work it is to be a parent. I mean, you really don't have time for anything else. It is just around the clock. It is just give, take care of. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. I loved that chapter of my life, but it also made me think, wow, I have a lot of freedom right now that I didn't have for a lot of years. And I just wanted to appreciate that. I also appreciate what they're doing and value that stage of life. I loved it. It was one of my favorite chapters of my life. But just to think like, I get to go to bed when I want to go to bed. I wake up when I want to wake up. All those things. It was just another opportunity to just show gratitude. Like, wow, like, okay, I survived that season and now I'm in a new season of life, which again, you have to find the best parts of every season of life that you're in right now. And one of the fun parts of being a parent of older kids is it's less about taking care of them and more about kind of hanging out with them, which I think is super fun. Celebrate everything. I do not think there's any coincidences in life. And this week, or I think it was last week, actually, my friend Meg sent me a lady that she follows. Meg has all these people that she follows. I don't know how she keeps track of them all, but it was about hosting a party. And like one of her taglines is, this woman's tagline is, it's like, it's Wednesday. It's not too late to host a party this weekend. She just believes in, it's not like hosting a party like this big extravagant affair, but she just believes in bringing people together, finding ways to bring people together. And I read her blog and I felt like it was really timely. And I talked a little bit earlier about hosting the Winter Challenge party and cooking and preparing for that. And while it was a little bit stressful, it brings me so much joy to bring people together. So that's something that I'm going to be working on a little bit more. In fact, I have, by the time this comes on, it will already have happened, but I'm getting together with some of my mom friends in the neighborhood that I never ever see anymore. And this was spurred before that. I was just thinking about them and I was just like, man, rather than thinking about them, why don't I just try to get everyone together? So that's what I'm doing. So another thing to do to get yourself out of a little bit of a funk is to bring people together. It could be people that don't even know each other, but just bringing people together is a really great way to lift your spirits, to potentially lift their spirits, to maybe find connection that you didn't know was there, and also just to celebrate new friendships, celebrate old friendships, celebrate anything you can think of. This weekend at Saturday Boot Camp, I told my students, listen, guys, I'm celebrating 16 years, and a lot of these people have been with me for all 16 years. So we're celebrating that too. But I want them to celebrate whatever they feel grateful for at the moment, because it's so important to celebrate your wins and to celebrate your successes and celebrate what's going right. And it's just a really great way to keep your head going in the right direction. I hope that something from this podcast was helpful for you guys. Please let me know if anything resonated with you or if it made you think about a personal example. I'd love to hear from anyone that takes the time to listen to this podcast. I'd love to hear from you, anything that you're struggling with, anything that you found success with. It really lights me up to know that some of these messages might be helpful. So please share and let me know. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Start Before You're Ready. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend who might need a little motivation. Ready to start your own journey? Check out our workouts and nutrition coaching programs at kellysbootcamp.net. You can choose from in-person sessions or virtual programs. Set up a complimentary coaching session to get started. Follow along with me and the show on social media at Kellys_bootcamp. Until next time, this is Kelly Young reminding you that the best time to start is always now.